Hello and welcome to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. My view of humanity is a whole new tea. Hi, hello, how are my wonderfuls, my lovelies, my beauties, my royalty? Yeah, let's just say it's an interesting year, 2026. Wow. I wonder what we can say 10 years from now. As long as, I just know education wise, this is how we got to the point we are politically. And I've been doing more research about reading comprehension, and the need of phonics and things. And after being in the classroom for years, either as a substitute teacher or a teaching either assistant or teacher and professor, wow. Yeah, I see how we got where we are. I see why Generation Z is where they are, partially to blame because of millennials. Yeah, oof. Especially when I look at some of my exes as parents and some of the things they said and did, and or how some of them would be like with the internet, oh, just look up the answers. Oh, I don't know how to do that. And yeah, it's I have so many thoughts and I will be talking about them, but this episode, when it comes to education and why I say that we need more education and real education, not the whitewashed crap and garbage and the just disgusting dribble that they're trying to put in history books right now, but we need real history. And yeah. So I'm going to be doing some episodes where I, like, for the grown folks and for the young, like for parents to maybe buy books to start like teaching the kids and letting the kids read and learn from themselves. And at the point where maybe you guys can ask each other questions and dive in and look up some things, and maybe even some with videos, because I really want to do some with books because we need to read more. I've been mentioning over the last 6 months to a year in different episodes how so many of my dates could not read. So many of my dates could not read. And I'm not saying, I know I'm not the smartest person, but I I think I'm just mind blown by the lack of comprehension and literacy that I was witnessing with many of these men. And like I've mentioned, like some of them even bragged that the last book they read was in middle school. Middle school, not high school. Middle, like in, and some of they graduated high school, but the last book they read was in middle school. Make that make sense, teachers. And the fact that when I was like while teaching, and I keep debating, like, should I try to get back into education? But no, but because it's not as safe. And with my disability, yeah, it's like once my disability got to the point it was, and then once when doctors were just like, maybe she was telling that, or they didn't even think I was telling the truth still. They just, yeah. But yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's over 600 episodes. You have a lot to catch up on. But I I kind of feel like once I start the nerd channel and get back to the educational channel and get back to my podcast, The Fairy Dog Mother, which I'm thinking of turning into books. I'm thinking of that. And because literally six, or I think actually 8 books would already be written. I would just need them to be illustrated. But yeah, that would be a lot of illustrations. So my illustrator would be really, really happy. And I would probably need a second illustrator. But yeah, I guess I will talk about that on the Nerd channel. I will be starting that up. I'll say my goal is by the end of May, early June. It's like I'm still trying to get the stuff for the candles and the greeting cards and the packaging and creating the databases and the website and yeah, all that fun stuff. Yeah, so yeah, I would say if you're interested in following my small business adventure while I get my books republished, because, yeah, go catch up because I do talk about why I didn't follow any of the marketing directions and I didn't follow any of my marketing advice because I didn't think I could. I had enough time. I didn't think I could. So I would say just catch up on that. But anyway, yeah, when it comes to education, it's like over the last couple weeks, I keep hearing about how, oh, I'm trying to think of a nice word, like, how educationally challenged Generation Z and A are, especially A, and how so many teachers are either quitting or they're frustrated or they don't know what to do because these kids just can't read. And one of my goals with one of my channels was to read books and even go through the phonics and break down because like with one of the children's books it might not just be one episode, it might be two or three because I might be breaking down the words to help and teach how this word says this, and then even why C sometimes has the S sound, and then how the P and the PH forms an F, things like that or whatever. And so, and I was like, I did have a terrible relationship with my mother, but one thing, like if you've been listening, you already know. One thing that I'm thankful for is how my parents, both of them, encouraged us to be educated, and they wanted us to further our lives and not just think about getting a husband. It's like they wanted us to have our lives, our goals, which I really appreciate. But it's really frustrating because I've been talking about dating, so I and standards. But one of the reasons why I have the standards that I have is because so many men were trying to tear me down and they didn't want to allow me to be who I wanted to be, and they didn't want me to be educated. They wanted me to be dumb. And some of these red pill men even say, "Look for the dumb women." I've literally heard these in some of their videos. They say, "Look for dumb women." So ladies, be careful and educate yourself. If you don't have a degree and if you can't afford a degree, don't worry. They have certifications. Like I have 3 certifications. Two of them I think cost me, one was like $75 and the other one was like 175 or something like that. It was under 200, but even if you can get like one or two certifications and things, it can help you, and it can at least help you like dive into some form of education and widen your mind and things. So yeah, men will hate that too, trust me. And that's why with my dating standards with education, it's like I don't say you have to have a degree, I say trade or certification as well, because I do acknowledge those, and to me that at least shows me that you are willing to educate yourself and have an open mind, you know? Okay. But with all of that, with the education, it leads me to my main topic. Because if you've heard the UN, they had a little vote recently, or very, very recently. And I'm embarrassed as in, like, okay, yeah, I love this country, but there's part of this country that just pisses me off and frustrates me because of the racism, the bigotry, the sexism, and all of the other isms and then ICE and just a lot of things that's going on right now. But that doesn't mean I I don't love this country and that we are like the only first world country that doesn't have healthcare for all, and then like trying to afford college, and then being able to get a job after college, and then being able to buy a house after getting a college degree, but then sometimes not being able to buy the house is because of the debt from your college degree, but then you can't file bankruptcy because of the college degree when they say college is supposed to further you and get you to a higher level. But now some people without college are now bragging or because they don't have that debt, you know? Yeah, it's just really, it's a spider's web right now. It's like shame if you do, shame if you don't in some way. Yeah. But the UN had a vote about if slavery was a crime against humanity. Guess how America voted. But I will say 52 countries abstained. I guess they were too scared and too nervous to say what they really thought, and or they didn't want their citizens to be upset and or view them in a dark light. But with America, they didn't care. Yeah, they said no because they wanted to make sure that they let African Americans know you're not getting no reparations. Heck no. And I think that's one reason why the countries who voted no, because they wanted to make sure that they would not have to, because that would give African Americans more evidence to be able to fight for reparations. And remember, I just mentioned that Dr. Phil episode where he was trying his best to prove that African Americans shouldn't get reparations, that we wouldn't be responsible with the money, that we wouldn't know how to budget our. Anyway, anyway, you already know what I think of him. And if you don't, go catch up. But yeah, America voted no, and 52 countries abstained. 3 countries in all said no. I think it was Israel and Canada were the other two. So I'm going to be doing some more episodes digging into each country and their history because I know slavery and or ownership of people was all over the world, but cattle slavery is unique within America and the way that they punish, dehumanizing, the cruelty. But then we also have to look at today's age and how a lot of red pill Christian men, I want to call them something else, but I won't. Some of them are now saying that owning somebody isn't bad, that slavery isn't bad. That's what they are saying right now. And it's disgusting. And see, I did that one video talking about that one Asian woman. I think her mom is from Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken. She has 5 kids. Yeah. It's like she's a politician. Yeah, go back. I think that I did that one like last week. So yeah, I'll just say look at last week's episodes. But she was trying to say, well, slavery is in the Bible and we just have to look at the time. It wasn't bad because of the times. And she was basically just trying to give it an excuse, give it reason. And a lot of Republicans, that's what they keep doing and saying. When Kamala Harris was running, she said we are not going back. But so many in this country want to go back. They want the privilege, they want the opportunity to go back. When they have or allowed Juneteenth to be a national holiday. The Republicans were so upset. Even Candace Owens was so, I'm not celebrating that. Oh, there's only one Independence Day. Oh, you weren't, your ancestors weren't independent. They weren't free on Independence Day. On the 4th of July, honey, do your homework. Honey, boo boo, like, so, poor thing. Bless her heart. But yeah, so whenever I hear black people say they're not going to celebrate Juneteenth, they're just like, no, there's only one. Oh, there's only, yeah, white people were free. We were not. And also, when it comes to different nationalities, a lot of them did not come over here until African Americans fought for their freedoms. And then a lot of them were able to take advantage because they didn't go through the hardships. They didn't go through the Jim Crow and segregation and other things. So a lot of them were able to take advantage of things that black people weren't, because there was still so much of a struggle. And even finding jobs and things like that, there was still judgment. One reason why we need diversity, equity, and inclusion. So many people say, oh, well, we don't need that because we're not racist. We're not that, like, um, yeah, sometimes I wish I could have videotaped some of my job interviews. I do. I really, really do. Because some of the, like, I've mentioned this so many times, and I think from the beginning, I think I already have an episode where I talk about the top 10 ridiculous questions I've had during a job interview. But I need to do a couple more, yet that's how many awful comments and questions I've had at job interviews. But yeah, I'm going to do a lot more. Yeah, those are the IQ episodes if you want to look those up. I haven't done one in over a year. I will. Those, yeah, I need to start doing those again because I need to let people know. I need to make sure they know the ignorance and the racism and the cruelty and the bigotry crawling all over this country. Because even when the orange man's talking about the Somali people, he keeps saying how dumb and just stupid they are, but then he keeps saying that they took so much money and they so, like, um um so they were so dumb that they were able to steal millions, like, mm. But also with the orange man, how many people did he not pay? How many times did he file for bankruptcy? But how many times did he refuse to pay, or did he have trials and stuff because companies who he did not pay took him to trial to get their money? And yeah, so didn't he technically steal their hours, force them to work for free? I mean, let it make sense. Let it all make sense. Because, yeah, from my education, that's stealing. You're stealing their hours. You're stealing their, their hard earned work, their talents, their energy. Yeah. So, and how many, like, companies did he start that failed? I mean, and then even now, like, with all of the people that they fired, and even now with the airports shutting down, like, the government, he is upset that they're not working for free, that, or they're not jumping up and down to work for free at, like, hello, welcome back to my petty education. You know what? I'm gonna have some petty education lessons. But in today's lesson, we're gonna talk about that slavery. Yeah, you're going to put down people for not working for free. And so then they're not going to be able to pay their rent, pay for food. Some of them are having to work like side jobs and work for Uber and hardly get any sleep so that they don't end up being homeless and or that they don't starve because you want them to work for free. And then you tell ICE, yeah, I'm to come and work the jobs, but then all they're doing is walking around and talking and looking over the people who are doing the jobs when I thought they were supposed to be doing the jobs. I thought they, like the leader or whatever, said that they were trained and are able and willing to do the work. If that was the case, why aren't they doing the work? And now we're at a point where now they're saying that they might have to shut down some of the smaller airlines because of what's going on with the shutdown of the government, because they have the expectation of these people working for free. While the Orange Man last year, I believe he made right around $2 billion. Yeah. And now he started us in a war. Is he paying for any of that? No, he's not. No, he's not. And even when you look at our prison system, how many, like, there's some of the prisons who have work conditions where people can go out, but they have to go work at either hotels and different companies, but they don't, like, yeah, let's just say, yeah, borderline slavery. Yeah. Yeah. But if you're rich enough, yeah, remember Epstein? There's been a few of the extremely rich people who they get to leave the prison and go to work and even go to their house and things like that, as long as they went back into the prison at their curfew hour. Mm, mm. But it just seems like if you're rich enough, if you're, or if you're religious enough, because it seems to be the highly rich or the extremely religious people who are now giving excuses to slavery. And now we have a country that it's like they want to say so many horrible things about every other nationality. And even with black people, they were like, if I see a black pilot on my plane, I'm going to wonder if they're good enough or smart enough to be able to fly that plane. Remember who said that? Remember who said that? And a lot of people were saying, oh, he's right. Listen to him. Oh, yeah. It's like if a black person has this job, how are we supposed to know they're good enough? So when we work our tushes off in order to get jobs, you don't think we're good enough. But back then, you thought we were good enough to work for free. You thought we were good enough to be slaves. You refused for us to be educated. And this is one reason why I brought up the education earlier. They were so determined to make sure we were as poorly educated as possible, because education gives you the freedom to escape, to leave. We have to make sure that we stay educated, because just like what Kamala Harris said, we are not going back. Because right now, looking at Generation A, oh, it looks like we're going back education wise. So we need to teach our kids like reading, because like even I just watched a documentary. I'll include it in this video. But reading trickles down, because, and this is another reason why we should not listen to some of these rappers, some of these like artists, quote unquote artists or whatever. Because there was that one rapper months ago, and I keep mentioning him because to me, in my opinion, he's a horrifying awful terror. Like, just, he disgusts me. But anyway, it's like when he said that we don't need to learn how to read. We can just use AI or have it read to us or whatever. Oh, like when our ancestors were forced over here, we weren't even allowed to read. And then they would only allow us to read the scriptures that taught us why we should be proud to be good slaves. And then we had to fight for even getting some education. And then, in order to get higher education, we had to build our own colleges and universities. But after all, like the Jim Crow, segregation, and everything like that, everything that our ancestors fought for, now we have jerks who have the nerve. In my opinion, he's an absolute awful, terrible jerk. After everything our ancestors went through, now he's going to have the nerve to say that we don't need to be able to read. He has no problem with us going back. He has no problem with us going back at all. And that is so, like, we have people out here trying to excuse slavery. But look at American slavery. It's like, because they're going to say, oh, look at the Irish. The Irish were like, yeah, okay. But was that the cattle part? Okay. And with reparations, who are they so determined to not pay back? Because once they pay us back, some people are probably going to start their own businesses, or they might go and get some education, and or they might do things that might better themselves. They don't want us to better ourselves. See, because that's another reason why, even with college education and the levels, because I remember I think it was around like 4 to 6 months ago, he changed like even the levels of some of the business degrees, nursing degrees, I think even therapy, stuff like that. Um, some like a lot of people are guessing why I kind of think because of either women and black women are majority of the people who apply for student loans to get those degrees. But yeah, they're interfering with our education. They are banning books that will give you the reality of what's going on around us, that will open your minds, that will allow the DEI within your eyes and ears. They don't want that. They want you as ignorant as humanly possible. They want the Bible in every school because they want you as ignorant as. And I am a Christian, but at the same time, and the way they use the Bible, the way they use that book. And so I just know after seeing and hearing about the UN vote, and I've been hearing different pastors talking about slavery like, oh, we shouldn't be ashamed of that. It's not a bad thing. Look at our history. Oh, no, look, it was good for those times. And oh, we taught them a skill. But yeah, if those slaves didn't do that skill, you whipped them until they, yeah. And the women were raped and brutalized. It's like there's so many things that, like, I mentioned this recently, but the cruelty. And but then they want to say that owning a person isn't bad. This is the Republican Party. These are Christian people. Guys, listen. They're saying it's not bad to own somebody. And oh, some of you guys might agree, especially if you're not black. Okay, just think about, what about if it was you? What about if it was your nationality and race? What about if it was your race? Because like in some other countries, it was the Hispanics. In some other countries, it was like all around the world, they had to proclaim an Independence Day because of some type of like crime against humanity, and the stealing and the obstruction and the colonization and everything. But I'm just at a point where slavery isn't, like, they want to say it's not. I'm so embarrassed. I am so embarrassed of this vote right now. I mean, what are your thoughts? Because I'm disgusted. I'm, I'm disgusted. Thank you so much for listening to the Handicapable Black Woman Throne Room. I am a woman, I am of color, and I am handicapable. But most importantly, I am human and you're human too.